Hello, everyone. Good morning, and welcome back to Geeks for Geeks. Here again, we are doing a marathon session. My name is Prakash. I am a software developer, and I am also a mentor at Geeks for Geeks. I've been working with Geeks for Geeks, I think, since the past 3 years, where I've been teaching students web development, especially JavaScript, React.js, and multiple other things like Next.js, Node.js, MongoDB, and these are basically my expertise. I work as a front-end developer, and also I've been mentoring. And Wow, thank you for this comment, Taimur. I have a course on JavaScript on Geeks for Geeks. So if you basically see the platform and search for a JavaScript course, it's a course from the basics to the advance of JavaScript, where we cover everything. So there basically so the course basically involves everything. Uh, the course has interview questions. The code has practice problems. The code has machine coding round questions. The course has projects as well. So there are 10 projects in the course, and there are multiple code examples. Right, in every topic there are code examples, and then there are something called as coding drills as well, where there is basic coding problems, advanced coding problems, and then basically there are these machine coding round questions as well, right? So in all in all, it's a very complete course. It's a very good course that we have created. So you can basically have a lot that course and go on. I'm just having a look at the comment section. If there are any other comments, yeah, there are contests as well. Just let me know if there is lag in the video or lag in the audio. Was everything fine? You can see there are 20 odd people who have joined stream. So whatever questions you have, you can ask. You can keep on asking multiple questions. So it works in that way as well. A bit laggy. So okay, cool. Okay. Is both lagging? Is the audio and the video both of them are lagging, or only there's a problem with the audio or problem only with the video? Both. Okay. Okay. Cool. So I'm just trying to fix. Right. Cool. So, just to give a quick walkthrough, what we did in the previous session. So, in the previous session, we had one more session on the basics of JavaScript. On last Sunday, we started with the basics of JavaScript. So there, basically, we covered variables, right? We covered the difference between what is var, let, and const. We covered them. Then we did some uh, examples on if conditions, right? Then we went if else condition. We understood what if is, else if is, else is. We also understood which type of variable to be used, right? Between var, let, and const, which one to be used, right? We also understood the difference uh, between the conditions if else, right? And then we saw what for loops are, and then we also understood some basics of functions also, right? So we saw it in that way also. And so today we'll basically take it one step ahead, where so the agenda of today is basically to understand what higher order functions are. Okay, so we'll first understand functions in its purest form, what a function is. We'll see what makes a function a pure function. We'll see what a higher order functions are, and then we will also try to understand different methods, right? We'll see some more data types like uh, arrays and objects as well, and we'll see how we can use higher order methods on them as well. So it will be a lot of learning today. So be with me, stick with me to the end. The it will be roughly around somewhere between 2 to 3 hours. Obviously it will be more than 2 hours only. I'll give you breaks in between as well, so that it things go so smooth. Okay. Is it still lagging? Is it still is still there a lag in the video and the audio? Is it still lagging? Audio is good. So if the audio is good, then okay, cool. Let me share my screen. Let's get started. So I'll share the screen. Okay. Okay, cool. So what we'll do is we will basically start with understanding pure functions. Okay. So what is a pure function? Okay, and why a function? What so we understood what functions are. So basically, uh, functions are basically called as first class citizens in JavaScript. Okay, functions are called as first class citizen in JavaScript. Okay, and in JavaScript we expect that a function should be a pure function. Okay, a function should be a pure function. Now, what makes a function as a pure function? Okay, so basically the question should be, what is a pure function? When we say that in JavaScript a function should be a pure function, so the very next question should be, what is a pure function? Okay, what makes a function a pure function? Okay, so what makes a function a pure function is the first thing is that a function basically takes some parameters. Okay, it can be one parameter or it can be more than one parameter, right? And returns a value. Okay, a function basically can take some parameters and it returns a value. Second is that the uh, the return value. Okay, the returned value of a function is not dependent on the outside scope. Is not dependent on the outside scope. Okay, so it says that a function takes some parameters and returns a value. So in the previous session we saw a function basically can take a parameter and it can also return some value. Okay, it can take some parameter and it can also return some value, right? This is what we saw. And then it says the return value of a function is not dependent on the outside scope. So what is an outside scope or what is a scope? So let's say I have a function. Okay, let's say I have a function which says which basically says calculate sum. Okay, calculate sum, and let's say it takes two parameters x and y. Okay, x and y, and then over here what we're doing is, so let's say there is a variable another const z equals to 10. Okay, or let's say, so we have been using let, so we just go with let z equals to 10, and over here we can just do return x plus y plus z, x plus y plus z, right? And then I can call the function, let's say calculate sum, and then pass some value, let's say 4 and then 5. Okay, and then assign it a value, so let's say const value equals to calculate sum, and then I can simply do a console.log of what value. Okay, so if I see the result now, if I see the result, if I go here in the browser, if I go to the console, so if I see what is the result is 19. Okay, why it is 19? Because over here, what am I doing? Right, I'm calling the function calculate. Okay, I'm calling the function calculate, and then what am I passing? I'm passing the parameters 4 and 5. Okay, so for people who are not there in the previous class, let me just give you a gist of what happened. Okay, so we learning function. So how do you create function? So we create a function by using this keyword function, and then you give it any name. So let's say calculate. Okay, calculate sum, and then you open and close a parentheses. Right, this parentheses can take some value, or if you don't want, you cannot give any value also. So let's say if I write a console.log of hello over here, right, and save it, and if I go to the console, I will not be able to see anything in the console. Okay, I will not be able to see anything in the console. Why? Because a function, basically inside a function, there is this body of code. Okay, there are these multiple lines of code in a function. These lines of code are executed only when I call the function. Only when I do what? When I call the function. What is calling the function? Calling the function is just simply writing the name of the function and followed by some parentheses. Okay, followed by this parentheses. This is called as calling. Okay, calling, or in a very technical term, it's called as invoking the function. Calling or invoking the function. So now if I save it, and then if you go back over here, so I can see hello. So this is what a function is, and why a function is used. A function is actually used to write reusable codes. Okay, codes or code of line, which basically I'm going to reuse across multiple instances in my project. For that reason, I basically use a function. Okay, for that reason I use a function. So this function can mean some parameter also. So let's say it takes name. Okay, so over here I can just use a template literal, and let's say if I had to write hello Prakash. Okay, welcome to JS marathon session. Welcome to JS marathon session. So now what I can do is, let's say instead of writing Prakash from here, I can just pass Prakash over here. Why? Because this function is taking a parameter. This function is taking what? It's taking a parameter called as name. It's taking a parameter called as name. So when it's taking a parameter called as name, I can pass some value for that parameter also. Okay, I can pass a value for this parameter. Parameter is nothing but like input. Parameters are nothing but like input to the function. So this name basically is an input for this calculate sum. Okay, name is like an input to this calculate sum. So when I'm saying that name is an input to this function calculate sum, so I can use the variable name inside also. So if I write console.log of name, if I write console.log of name and save it over here, okay, let me not pass. So console.log of name. So if we go and check it over here, so if you see what is name is Prakash. Why name is Prakash? Because when I'm calling this function calculate sum, I'm passing a value also. Okay, so when I pass a value, basically this Prakash is called as an argument. In a more development term, Prakash is an argument. This variable name is nothing but a parameter, right? So this name over here is nothing but a variable over here. Okay, so now instead of Prakash over here, I can simply write the variable also. I can use my template literal, which we did in the previous session. So now if I go and check over here, so if you see, I get hello Prakash, welcome to JS marathon session. What I can also do is, instead of, let's say, if I want someone else's name also, instead of Prakash, I can just write Ashish also and save it. So it will give me hello Ashish and welcome to JS marathon session. And if you see now, the value of name is nothing but Ashish. Okay, so whatever you pass over here, name will be changed according to that. Okay, name will change according to that. Let's say if I do not pass Ashish, okay, if I do not pass Ashish, so what will happen? A lot of people will think, okay, first I'm passing, I'm calling the function calculate sum, and I'm passing Prakash as the value for name. So name will be Prakash, right? So people will think, okay, so Prakash has name. Now, when I'm calling calculate sum again, since I'm not passing anything, people will still think, okay, name will still be Prakash, but name will not be Prakash. Name will be undefined. Okay, undefined. It's basically a value assigned by JavaScript to a variable when I'm actually not passing any value. Okay, so in the same way, what I'm going to do is, instead of so Over here, a function can also return some value also, right? So instead of this console log over here, so what I can directly do is I can directly return this message also. The function has a capacity of returning some value also. So I can directly return this value. Now, when I return this value, where is the value available? So the value is available over here. Wherever I'm calling the method or calling the function, the value will be there. So let's say I can just write const message equals to, or let message equal to, let's just use const only everywhere. So const message equals to calculate, and then I'm just doing to a console.log of message. Okay. So what's happening over here? When I call the function, okay, when I call the function calculate sum, this function is actually returning a text. If you see, this function is doing what? It is actually returning a text. So whatever text has been returned, it will be basically available over here. Okay. So whatever text is returned, it will be available over here, where every function has a capacity of returning some value, and every function returns something. So over here we are just returning this message. Okay. And where is this value available? Wherever you have called the function. So now what I'm doing, when I'm calling the function, and I'm assigning the function call to this variable message. And I'm calling the function, I'm assigning the function call to this variable message. And then what I'm doing is I'm just doing a console log of message. So if I go and check over here, I get hello Prakash, welcome to the JS marathon session. If I change this name, right, for example, if I just write it as Sakshi, and then if I save it, and if I go over here again, so it says hello Sakshi, welcome to JS marathon session. So this is what a function actually is. Okay, this is what a function actually is, and a function can also return some value. Okay. Now what we are focusing on is what makes a function a pure function. Okay, so let me comment this part over here. And so what makes a function a pure function? So let's say I'll just have a function called as calculate sum, right? And then it takes x and y, or let me just clear this part. It takes a parameters x and y, right? And let's say it just does a return of x plus y. Okay. Okay. And then, okay, so before that, we were just focusing on this thing. The return value of a function is not dependent on the outside scope. So what is scope? Okay, what is scope? So let's say this has const z equals to 10 also. Okay, z equals to 10. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write const value equals to calculate sum, and then pass some values 4,5. And then we will just simply do a console.log of value. Okay, console.log of value. Okay. So obviously, again, if I check over here, I get 9 over here. Okay, because I'm just doing x plus y. Let's say if I do x plus y plus z. So if I save it, so over here I'll just get 19. Okay. Now what is scope? Okay, scope of a variable. So this is a variable defined with const. So what is scope of a variable? Scope basically is called as visibility of a variable. Okay, what is scope? Scope is nothing but the visibility. You know what is basically called as visibility, or what is scope? Scope basically is the visible area of a variable. Okay, it's basically the visible area of a variable till where the variable is actually visible in the entire code. Okay, now why we say all of these things? Okay, so for example, let's say I have a variable over here, let name equals to Prakash. Okay, let name equals to Prakash. Okay, I can do a console.log of Prakash anywhere. I can just do a console.log of name over here. Okay, I can do a console.log of name over here. I can do a console.log of name inside this function also. Okay, name inside the function also. Okay, so if I go and check it over here, so if you see, I get name twice. I get Prakash once, and then I get Prakash twice. Both of them are being console log. So what happens is, first it will call this method. Okay, so I can also put a comma, and I can just write inside the function. Okay, and over here I can just put a comma and just write, let's say, outside the function. Okay, so it will give me both of them. First it will give me which the one which is inside the function, Prakash inside the function, and then Prakash outside the function. So what is it? So this variable is accessible everywhere, or it is visible everywhere. It is visible inside the function. It is also visible outside the function as well. So this is visibility. Okay, or this is called as scope of a variable. So when a variable is visible in the entire code, not only in a particular function, but it is visible in the entire code. Okay. So basically the scope of that variable is not, the scope of the variable is for the entire code itself. It's not limited to a function or somewhere. So the scope of the variable is for the entire code, given entire file. Okay. But now let's say there is const z equals to 10. So if I do a console.log of z, and let's say I just write inside the function, and let's say over here after the name I just write console.log z, and then I'll just write outside the function and save it. So if I go over here and check it, so if you see, first I get Prakash inside the function, I get 10 inside the function. What is 10? 10 is nothing but z. So what will it log? So first it will call the method. Once it calls the method, it should log the name with name and then inside the function. So whatever name is given, so Prakash is given, so Prakash inside the function. Then it does const z equals to 10, and then there is a log. Okay, since the method is called, there is again a console log. Okay, there's a console log of z, which is again inside the function. So it will gives me the value of z, which is 10. Then there is a console log where it calculates the value. So it should give me 19. Okay. Then there is a console log of name, which is outside the function. So it should give me Prakash. Then there is a console log of z, which is outside the function. So it should give me 10 and outside the function, but it gives me an error. What does it say? It says a reference error, z is not defined. Okay, it says reference error, z is not defined. What is the meaning of this error? Whenever you get an error which says reference error, z is not defined, that means JavaScript was not able to find a variable declared with this name z. JavaScript was not able to find a variable declared with this name z. But have we not declared a variable z? Yes, we have declared a variable z. But where is this variable declared? This variable is declared inside the function. So any variable declared inside the function, so the scope of that variable is confined to that function itself, is limited to that function itself. Okay, that means the function, the variable z will only be accessible or visible inside the function. Outside the function, that variable will not be visible. Okay, when I say scope of a variable is limited to a function, that means that variable is only visible inside the function, is only accessible inside the function. Outside the function, that variable is not visible. So this variable is defined over here, const z equals to 10. So that's why over here I get console log z inside the function. Okay, but outside the function, no one knows what z is. For example, if I write const z equals to, let's say 45 over here and save it, then this would be visible. Okay, then if you see, z is 45 outside the function. Okay, so here now you will say, okay, this is not right, because both are the same variable declaration. Yeah, both are same variable declaration, but both are different. Okay, the scope of this z is for the entire code, but the scope of this z is only for the function, and the value of z is not updating in this case. Unlike var, the value of z is not updating over here. Okay, obviously if I write const z equals to 100 over here, then it will definitely give me an error, because it's like redeclaring the same variable, and we cannot do it. Okay, this does not happen in const. Okay, so this z equals to 10 and this z equals to 45, these are two different variable declaration. Okay, having two different memory allocation. Okay, stored at two different places. The z equals to 10, the scope of this variable is only limited to the function, but z equals to 45, the scope of the variable is for the entire code. In the entire code, I can find it wherever I want to find it. Okay, is this clear? Okay, cool. So this is the scope. Okay, so now coming back to what a pure function is. Okay, so I'm seeing the chat. Okay, there are questions. Yeah, we will be building many front-end projects as well. Okay, so this is again for people who have joined just now, or people who have joined us now, didn't join the previous session. This is a marathon session that will basically continue for months, and where we'll be taking projects as well based on JavaScript. So maybe in the next session on the coming Sunday, we'll take projects on JavaScript, right? How to create, how to make many projects in JavaScript, how to understand, and then we will also do React, learn basic React, advanced React, and then we'll make projects on React as well. This is going to be an every Sunday thing, right? So just mark your calendars, have reminders in calendars. Okay. Mr. Chigui or Mrs. Chigui or Miss Chigui, thank you for your kind words and appreciation. Okay, cool. So now coming back again, what a pure function is. Okay. So what a pure function is? Firstly, it should take a parameter and it should return some value. Okay. Okay. So this function takes two parameters, x and y. Yes, good one. We are passing the arguments also. 4 and 5, these are the arguments, right? And then we have a variable const z equals to 10 and it returns some value also. Okay. So now, okay, let me just remove z10 for now, and then we say x plus y. So this is a beautiful example of a pure function. It is taking parameters, it is returning some value. Okay, we're taking parameters, returning some value, we're also passing it. So we get over here 9 in the console. Okay, good. Second thing is that the return value of function is not dependent on the outside scope. What is the meaning of this? For example, let's say if I have a variable let z equals to 10 over here, and then when I write plus z over here, and then save it over here, so what I'm going to get? I'm going to get 19. Now over here, the return value is depending on what? So these are the local variables, okay, internal variables, or these are the parameters which we are passing. These are not local variables, but these are the parameters that I'm passing. Okay, so these are the parameters that the function received, and then these are the arguments or the values for that parameters. But what is this z? This z is not a local variable, right? But the z is coming from where? It's coming from outside the scope of the function. What is the scope of the function? This block is the scope of the function. Okay, what is scope of a function? This given block, okay, the curly braces, whatever we write inside the curly braces, that is the scope of a function. So the return value is not dependent on the values inside the scope, right? But it is dependent on outside the scope. So whenever the return value is influenced by a value which is outside the scope of the function, then the function becomes an impure function. Okay, napak ho gaya ye. This becomes an impure function. Why? Because the return value is influenced by the outside scope. Not only in the return, even if you are doing something, if there is some calculation and whatever you're returning, right? If the return value is actually being influenced by some external parameter. Okay, so for example, let's say if I return const total equals to the same thing. Okay, constant equals to the same thing, and then I would have written return total. Again, what is happening? I'm returning total, but what is total? It is x plus y plus z. What is z? Z is a value which is not in the scope of this function. It is outside the function scope, right? So the value is dependent on this outside scope. So then it becomes an impure function. If z was defined inside, so then this becomes a local variable and it is not influenced by outside the scope. Okay, so then this becomes a pure function. It's a pure function. But over here, this basically, when it is outside, it becomes an impure function over here. Okay. Now let's understand something as higher order functions. Okay. What is a higher order function? Okay. So a function that can take another function as a parameter. Okay, till now what we were seeing, the parameter could have been a name. Okay, parameter could have been a name, or a parameter basically could have a parameter could have been a name. A parameter could have basically been a number also. Okay, but a parameter can also be a function. So what is a higher order function? A function that can take another function as a parameter, or it can return a function. Okay, or a function that can return a function, or can do both. That is nothing but a higher order function. So what is a higher order function? A function that can take another function as a parameter or a function that can return a function or can do both is a higher order function. Let me give you an example. So let's say there is this function y. Okay. There is this function y which simply does a console.log of hello from function y. Okay. And let's say then there is this function x. Okay. There is this function x which does console.log of, let's say, hello from function x. Okay. Hello from function x. Now what I want to do is I want to call the function y. Now when I'm calling the function y, what I'm doing is I have to pass a parameter. Okay. So let me just say it will take a function. So I'll just write over here something as inner function. Okay. Inner function. And what I'm doing is I'm passing x. Now what is x over here? X is not a variable. Okay. X is a function. X is not a string or x is not a number. But what is it? What is x? X basically, what is x? X is basically a function. Okay. So if I do a console.log of x over here, if I do a console.log of x over here and save it, and then have a look at it over here. So if you see what is x, it is nothing but the entire function. Okay. Or when I do a console.log of what the not x, let me just do console.log of inner function because I'm passing inner function, right? Because I'm passing x over here. So this function y is taking an inner function. So I'm passing x over here, which is nothing but a function. Okay. So when I do a console.log of the inner function, what is inner function? Inner function is nothing but the function x. Inner function is what? It is nothing but the function x. It just gives me the entire function that this is a function. So now I know that this inner function is nothing but a function. So I can also call the inner function directly over here. I can write inner function and then put the parentheses over here. Save it. So I'm just directly calling the inner function, right? So if I go over here, when I call the inner function, what I'm getting hello from function x. Okay. So let me explain again, right? Let me just take this out. Take this out as well. So I have two functions over here. Okay, x and y. Okay. When I call the function y, what I'm going to get? I'm only going to get hello from func y. Okay. Now, if I call function x, I will get hello from function x. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to pass x into y. So I create a parameter over here called as inner function, or I can also say wrapper, right? And I will call y and I'll pass x over here. What is x? X is nothing but this function, right? So I know if I do a console.log of the inner function over here, it is going to give me the value of x. Okay, it is going to give me x, this value that I'm passing. And what is this? This is nothing but a function. So if I go over here, if you see, it gives me that it is nothing but the entire function. So inner func is nothing but the entire function. So what I can do is, instead of just logging inner function, I can just call the inner function. I can just call it in this way. So if I save it now, so if you see over here, I just get hello from function y and function x. Okay, so this is one example. Okay, why? Because so this makes this function a higher order function. Okay, what does this do? This makes this function a what? A higher order function. Basically, a function that basically can take a parameter. Okay, a function basically then that can take a parameter. Okay, this is the first part. Now the second part is a function that can return a function. Okay, so the first part is done. A function that can take another function as a parameter. The first part is done. Now the second part is a function that can return a function. Okay, a function basically that can return a function. Okay, so what is returning a function? Okay, so over here I'm passing this inner function, right? Instead of calling this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write return the function. Okay, I can't do return and call it at the same time. Okay, I can't do return and call at the same time. I can just do return. So what I can just do over here is const. Okay, and then I can just write take a variable wrapper function equals to, when I'm calling y, I'm just have to pass x. Okay, I'm calling y and I have to pass x. So what will this do? This y and x, it will. So when I'm calling y with x, what is x? X is nothing but a function. So the inner func is nothing but a function. And then I'm returning the function itself. The way we were returning value, I'm returning a function. And I'm assigning the return value to this wrapper function. So if I simply do a console.log of the wrapper func and save it, and if I go over here, so if you see the wrapper func is nothing but a function itself. Okay, the wrapper func is nothing but what? A function itself. Okay, so what we are doing over here, right? I'm calling y with x. I'm calling y with x. And what is x? X is nothing but a function. Okay, what is x? X is nothing but a function, right? And I'm passing the function x in this function y. Okay, there is a function y, there is a function x. So I'm calling the function y and I'm passing x. What is x? X is a function. So when I pass x over here, so this inner func is nothing but a function. It's not a string, it's not a number, right? What we were doing earlier, we were having strings, we were having numbers, name and then x and then y. Those are numbers and strings. Now this inner func is nothing but a function. What I'm doing is I'm returning a function, right? And we know whatever value is returned, it will appear over here. Okay, whatever value is returned, it will appear wherever the function is called, that value will appear over there, right? So now this wrapper function is nothing but this is having this return value of this function y. The wrapper function which will have what value? It will have the return value of the function y. What is the return value of function y? Is nothing but this inner function. It is nothing but this function x that we have passed to this y. That is the return value. What is the return value of y? Is nothing but this function x that I have passed to this function, right? That is assigned to this wrapper func. So whenever I call the wrapper func, what do I actually get? I get that is nothing but a function, right? When I know that wrapper func is nothing but a function, so I can simply call the wrapper func as well. I can simply write wrapper func and save it. Then if I go back over here, so I get hello from function x and function y as well, right? So this is another example of a higher order function. Okay, now it has two things, right? A function basically that is, so now y becomes a higher order function. X is not a higher order function. X is a normal function. Y is a higher order function. Why? Because it is taking function and it is also returning a function also. It's taking function as a parameter. It's also returning the function also. So I get it over here. Okay. Now what I can also do is this can also be written in this way. Okay. So since I know that when I'm basically calling y and passing x, it is returning a function. So instead of assigning this to a variable, I can also put one more parenthesis over here, because I know that when I call this part, when I call only this part, y with x, it is going to return a function. Since it is returning a function, I'll get a function over here. Which function? This inner function is returned. So I'm getting a function over here. So when I add a two parentheses after that, that means I'm calling the function, right? I'm calling the function. So this can be written in this way also. So if I go and check it over here, so I get the same thing. Hello from func y, hello from func z. Okay, I didn't save it. Let me save it. So it's the same thing. Hello from func y, hello from func z. Okay. There can be multiple other things also. So let's say I can create another function called as, let's say, wrapper function. Okay, wrapper function. And then what I can do is, let's say, so this function has something as console.log from a wrapper function. Okay, and instead of returning the inner function, I will just return the wrapper function, and I can call the inner function over here. So this also combination can be there. Okay, so what is happening over here now? It's the same way. It's the same thing over here. What have I done? I have defined another function inside this function y. So this function y is now taking a parameter which is nothing but a function. Okay, because I'm calling y with x. Okay, I'm calling y with x. So it is taking. Okay, so let me just remove this and just write const value equals to y, and let me just pass x, and let me just do a console.log of value. So it will create more clear understanding. Okay, so here if you see what actually we are doing is I'm calling the function y with a value x. What is x? X is nothing but a function. So, and this takes a parameter also inner function. So when the code is executed, it will first execute this line hello from func y, and it will call the inner function. Okay, as we know, this inner function is nothing but this entire function x. It's nothing but this entire function x. So when I call this inner function, so I'm calling this function x. So I will get hello from func x. Okay, then what is happening? Then we are defining a new function. Okay, I'm creating a new function which is from the wrapper function. Okay, and now I'm returning the wrapper func. So now I return the wrapper func. What will happen? This value will have the return value of the function y. This variable value will have the return value of the function y. What is the return value of function y? It is nothing but this wrapper function. Hakina, yes, right? So now if I check it over here, so if you see I have hello from func y, hello from func x also. Why? Because now this function func x is this inner function. Okay, and then again if you see over here, it says it just shows that okay, that I'm returning a wrapper function. Okay, a wrapper function basically was returned itself. And what is the wrapper function assigned to? It is assigned to this value. So instead of doing a console log of value, I can also call this function because I know that value is now a function. Okay. So now if I go and check it over here, so it says from wrapper function. Okay. Again, the same thing. Instead of writing value in this way, right, or written in this way, I can also put a parentheses over here also directly. Okay, and then save it, and then I get hello from the wrapper function. Got it? Is this clear? Okay. So this is what a higher order function actually is. A function that can take another function as an argument. Okay, this is what a higher order function is. Cool. Let's move ahead. Okay, let's also see something called as an arrow function. Okay, so I'll take two examples. Okay, one with a normal function, and then so to explain basically what an arrow function is. So let's say console log hello from GFG. Okay. This is a normal function. Okay, show message. This is a normal function. I will get hello from GFG. Now, what is an arrow function? Okay, a fat arrow function. It's basically a function syntax written in a single line. Okay, an arrow function or a fat arrow function is a function syntax basically written in a single line. It's just another way of writing a function. Okay, another way of writing a function. There's no difference between an arrow function or function. The only difference is basically related to a window object. Okay, that is another very in-depth topic. We can for that again. We'll have to have one more session for JavaScript itself. Okay, so that is the only difference between them about window object. Otherwise, everything is same. Okay, you can pass a parameter, return a value. Now, how do I convert this show message into an arrow function? So I'll just write const. Let's say I'll just take display message. So how does this work? You just do an equal to, since it's obviously it's a variable declaration, and then we use parentheses and then fat arrow or arrow. So equals to, and then this greater than sign, and then your curly braces. This basically makes it this is a fat arrow function. An arrow function or a fat arrow. People also say fat arrow because of this part. Okay. So now this display message is no longer a variable. This display message becomes a function. Okay. I'll give you an example. So if I write over here console.log hello from arrow function. Okay. Hello from arrow function. Obviously what I have to do is I have to call this method. Okay. I have to call this method. So I'll just do a display message and put parentheses and save it. Okay. So now if I check it over here, so if you see hello from arrow function also. Okay, it's the same way. The way you call a normal function, it's the same way you call an arrow function. The way you call a normal function is the same way you call an arrow function, right? Let's say over here, then it is, suppose this function takes a parameter also of name. So over here we can also add, over here basically we can also add it in this way, which should be hello name from GFG. Okay, and let's say if I pass a value, so Prakash. Okay, so obviously the first function will give me what? Hello Prakash from GFG. In the same way, okay, this display message also, since these are parentheses, in the parentheses you pass a value. I can just pass name. Let's say I can just write Sakshi. And over here I can just write hello. Let me just make it template literal over here. And I can just put a dollar and just write hello Sakshi from arrow function. Okay. So this is the only difference between the arrow function and the normal function. Okay. The good part is that, let's say for example, your arrow function has one single line. So then, okay, cool. There's no need to put these curly braces. Okay, it can be done in this way also. Okay, so again, it will be the same output itself. So if we say hello Sakshi from arrow function. Now let's say, for example, if I want to do some calculations also, okay, and then let's say take some parameters also, x and y. So I can also do console.log of, let's say, x plus y, okay, x plus y, and then let's say it will pass some values also, 4 comma 5. So if I save it, so obviously the first function will give me 9. Okay. Now it comes to arrow function. When there are multiple lines, so then you will basically have to do use a curly braces. Okay, so let's say, let me copy this, and it would be hello name from, let's say, the arrow function. Okay, and then let's say this also takes some parameters as, let's say, x comma y, and let's say I'll just pass 6 and 7. So if I save it, so if you go and check it over here, so just say okay, I didn't write anything over here, so it should be console.log of, let's say, x plus y, right? So if I go and check it over here, so I get 13. Okay, now let's see one more thing. Okay, so let's say of this function only returns a value. Okay, so it is not doing a console.log of name or anything. Okay, what we are doing is, I'm just doing a simple return over here, right? I'm just doing a simple return over here. Okay, it will also not take any value. Okay, and I'm just doing a simple return over here. We'll pass different values, obviously. So for show message, I'm passing 4 and 5. For the second one, display message, I'm passing 6 and 7. So if I save it over here, and if I go over here, let me refresh this. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Obviously, I have to do a console.log also. So I'll wrap this function call inside a console log. So I'll do a console.log over here, and then I'll wrap this display message also inside a console log. Console.log this also. So if I save this, if I go over here, so it gives me 9 and 13. Okay. So if you see, the question would be why. Okay. So this is just called as a what you say, syntactical sugar. Okay. It's just called as a syntactical sugar. एक मक्खन विक्खन लगा के polish बना के नया बना दिया. Okay. But over here, now again, as I told you, if your arrow function just has one single statement, or is just returning a single value and does not have any multiple line, you can simply write it in this way also. There's no need for this return. Not for this also. So this is a beautiful part where what will happen, even if you don't write a return over here, arrow function will actually return the value of this summation to this, or to wherever the function is called, right? Over here, when we have a regular function, this is a regular function, then what I have to do is I have to basically put a return statement. But when I do not have any regular function, when it's an arrow function, okay, so even if I do not put a return over here, the value is going to be returned to this display message directly. Okay, so now if I go and check it, so I'm going to get the same thing, 9 and 13. You get it? Okay, so this is what actually an arrow function is. Okay, if you have any questions or any doubt, you can also put it in the chat. I'm reading the chat, I'm going through the chat, so I'll have a look at the chat also. Okay, so this is what an arrow function is, right? If there are multiple lines, okay, if there are multiple calculations, then you can do it in the same way. Whatever you write for a regular function, you can also write for an arrow function. The only difference is this part, where for a regular function, even for a single statement, you have to write it in this way, return and all the things. For an arrow function, you do it in a very single straight line itself. Okay, cool. Let's move ahead. Okay, so this is about the higher order functions, and then this is also about what we say about the arrow functions and the normal regular function. Okay, we'll deep dive more into arrow functions. We'll take some examples also of higher order functions, take some examples of higher order functions, and we'll deep dive more into what a higher order function actually looks like. Okay, cool. Now let's move ahead. Let's understand about arrays. Okay, what an array actually is. Okay, I think we didn't go through what an array is. So what is an array? Array, okay, so for people coming from DSA background, array, or people coming from Python or something like that. So array is nothing but a list. Okay, it's a list. It's a collection of more elements. Okay, so let's say I can just write const. Let's say I have multiple students. So I just write students equals to, and to create an array, I have to use these square brackets, and I can write multiple names separated by comma. So let's say Ashish, Akshi, Sadaf, Avneet. Okay, so let's say these are my students. Okay, these four are my students: Ashish, Sakshi, Sadaf, Avneet. Right. So what is happening? So all of these are single elements. All of them are what? These are single elements, and then every element basically is separated by a comma. Okay, every element is what? Is separated by what? A comma. Okay, so in the previous session, I remember we did loops also. Okay, we did for loop, and then we did these for loop on these arrays. Okay, we did for loop on these arrays, and then we did and okay, cool. Still, we'll just do a simple revision. Okay, so let's say if I want to map over this array, if I want to do a map over this array, or let's say if I want to log, if I do a console.log of students and save it, I'll get all of them: Ashish, Sakshi, Sadap, and Avneet. And if I click on them over here, I'll get its position also. I remember we did this. Okay, Ashish is at index 0, Sakshi at index 1, Sadaf 2, and Avneet 3. Okay, so if I want to log them individually by their index, so I can just do a students square bracket 0. If I save it, right, so I will get only Ashish. So what is this? This is indexing. When I put square brackets students and then square bracket 0, this is indexing. So this is basically console log the value at index 0 in the students array. When I write students square bracket 0, let's console log the value at index 0 in the students array. So I can also do console.log of, let's say, students and then square brackets 1. And then if I save it, so I'll get Sakshi also. Okay. Now to avoid these writing multiple lines of them, what we do is we did a for loop. Okay. So I can do a for loop, and I can just write for, let's say, let I equals to 0 and I less than the length of this array. So I can just write students dot length. Okay, should be less than the length of this array. So what is length of the array? Length is the number of elements in the array. How many elements are there? It is 4. Okay, and what is the index of the last? The index of the last is always 1 less than the length of the array. Index of the last element is always 1 less than the length of the array. So the length of the array is 4. The index of the last element is 3. If the length of the array is 4, index of the last element is what? 3. Because index of the last element is always 1 less than the length of the array. Right? And then again a semicolon, and I'll do I plus plus. So, okay. So I can simply do a console.log of students square brackets I over here. Why I? Because I starts from 0. So students square brackets I means the value of I would be 0. So to log Ashish, that increase value of I by 1. So I will become 1. Then it will check the condition. Okay. So initially, how does this work? So let I equals to 0, I less than the students dot length. So it will check if this condition is true, then only this body of code is executed. So what is the condition? The condition is the value of I should be less than the length of the students. Currently the length is 4. Okay. Currently the length is 4. Okay. Currently the length is 4. So I is less than 4. Yes, because I is 0, so 0 is less than 4. So to log this value, increase the value of I by 1, so I becomes 1 now. So I'm going to check this condition. Yes, I is again less than 4. So it will again log this value and increase the value of I by 1. So I becomes 2. So it will again check the condition. Yes, I is still less than 4 because I is 2. So it will log this value, student square brackets 2. So it will give me Salaf. It will increase the value of I by 1. So I becomes 3. It will still check the condition. Condition is still true. Okay, so it will log the value, student square brackets 3. So it will give me Avneet. Then it will increase the value of I by 1. So I becomes 4. So the length is 4 and I is also 4. So this condition will not be true. So it won't give me anything, right? So if I save this, so again I'll get the same thing. Okay. think I didn't save it. Okay, if I save this, yeah. So now I'll get all of them. Ashish, Sakshi. Now this can be done in another way also. Okay, this can be done in another way also. So, okay, what I can do is on these arrays, okay, on these arrays, I can apply some different methods. Okay, I can apply some different methods. Okay, the way I was calling function, on the same way on arrays also I can call different functions. Okay, so I can just write students and then students, and then I can use a function called as map. Okay, so there are internal higher order functions which JavaScript also gives. Okay, so I can just write dot map, and then this map basically takes a function. Okay, this map basically takes a function. Okay, so this map takes a function. So if you see map, what does it say? Map, it's a function. Map is what? It's a function, because whenever I open and close a parenthesis, that means that thing is a function. So it says what is map? Map is a function that accepts up to 3 arguments. Okay, so the map method calls a callback function. Okay, so map is what? It's a function. It will call the callback function one time for each element in the array. Okay, it will call the callback function one time for each element in the array. Okay, so if you see, the map method calls the callback function. So this map also will take another function also. It calls a defined callback function on each element of the array and returns an array contains that result. Okay, so let's say if I create a function over here and I'll write over here the name of the function as callback. Okay, and this function, let's say, takes a parameter as name, or takes an element, and let's say it just does a console.log of the element. Okay, just do a console log, whatever is element. So in the map, if I pass this callback function, according to map, what does it say? Okay, it calls the defined callback function on each element of the array. Calls a callback function. So what will map do? Map will call this callback function with taking each element in the array. That's why I'm passing an element over here in the callback function. So the map method, this map method will call this callback function. So there's no need to write it in this way. Okay, when this becomes incorrect, this becomes I'm calling it directly. So what I have to do is, whenever I have to call the callback function, I have to pass a reference. Okay, so even if you see over here, when we were talking about this higher order function, over here I was just passing the inner function. Did I do it in this way? I'm not calling the inner function over here. I was just passing the inner function, right? It was a parameter. So in the same way, this map also is an higher order function. Okay, this map also is a higher order function because it is taking another function as a parameter. Okay, it is taking another function as a what? Parameter. And what is the definition? The map will call this callback function on each element of the array. It will call this callback function on each element of the array. So that's why I'm passing an element and I'm also console logging the element. So the element first will be Ashish, and then it will be Sakshi, it will be Sadaf, and it will be Avneet. So what will map do? Okay, so map internally is like a for loop. Map is like a for loop. It will go through every element. It will go through every element and pass all of these values to this callback function. Okay, map is like a for loop. Okay, internally map is like a for loop. So it will go through every element in the array and pass these values to this callback function. So if I save it now, and if I go here, so again I have all of them. Okay, let's say if I increase something, okay, so let's say if I write Riya and others over here and save it, so I'll get all of them: Ashish, Sakshi, Sadaf, Avneet, Riya, and then others. Okay, so this is what a map method is. Okay, this is what a map function is. Okay, another way, so I hope this is clear. What is happening over here? Map is taking a callback function, right? It's taking a callback function and it calls the function on each element in the array. Okay, so what does map do? Map is like a for loop. It is iterating over this entire array. Iterating means going through the array. It will take this value Ashish and call the callback function with this Ashish. Once this is done, and the function execution is done, it will go to the next value and it will call the callback function with this value. It will go to the third value. It will call the callback function with this value. It will go to the fourth value. Call the callback function with the fourth value. So this is how map actually works. Okay. Now another, it says that it and it returns an array that contains the result. Okay, it calls a callback function on each element of the array and returns an array also. So map returns an array also. What does that mean? So for example, if I return some value here, if I return from the callback function, if I am returning a value, okay, and then if I do const result equals to students.map, okay, so since it's a callback function, this callback function is returning a value, and then it says map also returns something. So if I just do a console.log of result, if I do a console.log of result, what is happening over here? If I go and check over here, so what I'm getting nothing but the same array. Okay, I'm getting nothing but what the same array. So what is map doing? It's just like a for loop. Okay, it's just like a for loop. Now what it's doing? It is returning an array. It says map also returns an array. Okay. Now instead of writing it in this way as the callback function, I could have written it in this way also. So let me just comment this part, and I can also use an arrow function over here. Okay, I can use an arrow function, okay, which will take the element, okay, and it will just, let's say if I do a console.log of the element now, okay, I do a console.log of the element and save it. If I refresh this, I'm getting all of them. Okay, Ashish, Sakshi, Sadaf, because I've just did a console.log. Now instead of doing a console.log, if I just want to return it, what I'll do, I'll just write ELE. Okay, as I told you, there's no need to write a return. Okay, we could have done it in this way also, return ELE. But since it's a one single line, and the arrow function, with the good part of arrow function is that if the body of code has only one return statement and nothing else, okay, there's no need to write the return. If there is some extra things, then obviously there's need to write return and something like that. But in this way, there's no need to write a return. And the again good part is that if there is only one argument, there's no need to put parentheses also. I can do it in this way also. So map and then ELE, this is an arrow function. Okay, if it's only one parameter, then there's no need to put parentheses also. So if I check over here, okay, let me save. Okay, let me comment this result, save it. So we get all of them. Okay, now your question would be, why is this required? So for example, let's say if I only want to log the elements whose, let's say, length is, let's say, greater than 4, okay, or let's say greater than 5. Okay, only want to log elements whose length is greater than 5. So let's say Ashish will come, Sakshi will come, I think Avneet and others will come, Sadaf and Riya will not come. So I'll just say return only the elements whose length is greater than 5. So just write ELE. Okay, so over here I can just write or let's say I just want to return only the first element of all of them. So I can just write ELE square bracket 0. So I'm just returning the first element of the element. Okay, in the element also, whatever is the first value. So for this also, Ashish, I can just write square bracket 0, so it will give me the first character. So for the string also, the way I iterate over an array, I can iterate over the string also in the same way. Okay, so if I go over here now, so see, it gives me ASSARA. Okay. Okay, cool. Okay. Okay. But let's say if I do it in this way, so let's say I just want to return only elements which are length, ELE length, let's say greater than 5. Okay. So what will happen? So if I do it in this way, this is the condition. So if you see, okay, it gives me what? True, false, true, false. Okay, it does not return the value. It just gives me, because obviously this will what it will do? It will just give me. So this will what does it say? Map returns a value. Okay, just returns a value. So it will return whatever is the condition's value, true or false. So over here, what I have to do is, if the condition is true, then I use a ternary operator, and then I'll say just return the element, else just return an empty string. The condition is true, return the element, or else just return an empty string. Okay. So now if you go and check it over here, so if you see if the condition is true, it is returning the value, else it is just returning an empty string. Okay, condition is true, so it returns Ashish, Sakshi, else it returns for Sadaf and Riya, it is just returning an empty string. Okay, this is map. Okay. In the same way, there is another okay, method. So like now this was a part of filtering. So let's say if I want to do a filter, okay, I only wanted elements whose length is greater than 5. So how can I do it? I can simply do it by using the filter method. Okay, I can simply just do it by using the filter method. So what I can do is, So let's say I can just write over here const filtered value is equal to students the array dot filter. Now all of these methods are only applicable on map on array only. So I do a students dot filter. It will take an element, an arrow function, and I'll just do element whose length is greater than 5. When I just say return the element whose length is greater than 5, so with filter I just have to pass a condition. So how does filter work? So every value which passes this condition, only that value will be returned. Okay. In map, it does not happen in that way. In map, it will return every single value. Okay. Okay. So that's why I have to also have an else condition also. But over here, what I have to do is I just have to put a condition. Okay. I have to just put a condition that return only the values which will pass this condition. So what is the condition? The condition is elements whose length is greater than 5. Element whose length is greater than 5. Okay. Element whose length is what? Greater than 5. So all the elements length is greater than 5, only that will be returned. So if I do a console.log of the filtered value, so if I save it, and if you check over here, so if you see, it just gives me Ashish, Sakshi, Avneet, and others. So it is returning only those values whose length is greater than 5. Okay. Now, whenever you're appearing for interviews, there will be a lot of questions regarding to this. Okay. Or there will be a lot of questions in which you would be basically using this map filter and all of these methods. Okay, you would be using this filter method. You'll be also using these map methods also, right? So filter basically is like it's a filtering process. Okay, so every element that will pass this condition, every element that passes this condition, you will basically just return those elements only. Okay. Now let's say if I have to write it with regular function, I would have written function. Okay, I'll just return callback. Okay, callback is callback, and then take element, and I would have just returned the same thing. It is just does the same thing. Return element dot length greater than 5. Element dot length greater than 5. And instead of this part over here, I can simply just do a callback function. Okay, callback. And if I save it, it will still give me the same result. Okay, Ashish, Sakshi, Avneet, and others. It's the same thing. Okay, so this is how it basically works. Okay, the filter method. Now, with this, see there are multiple exercises that you can do. And as a multiple exercise, it means basically just return elements which have even number of characters, which have odd number of characters. Okay, so these are filter process. So for example, if I just say return elements which have only even number of characters. So let me just write name. Okay, just me take a good variable name, and I can just say if name dot length. Okay, let's say if I want only elements which have even number of characters. So if name dot length, if I divide this by 2 and if it is equal to 0, so that means only elements which have even number of characters. Okay, when I say name dot length, so I'm just taking the number of characters, dividing it by 2, and if the remainder is equal to 0, just give me those names. Okay, so if I go and check over here, so elements with only even number of characters. So this has 6 characters, this has 6 characters, this has 6 characters. Only Sadaf's name is not there because her name has 5 characters. So let's say if I want only odd number of characters, not equal to 0. So let's say if I write over here my name also, because my name has odd number of characters. So if I go here and then if I check it over here, okay, so it gives Sadaf and Prakash. Okay, so this is how basically you can write multiple conditions also. Okay, because there is no need to, and there are multiple things that you can do over here with arrays. Okay, let's say if given a number, then you can find write codes basically to find the minimum number and the maximum number also, right? So take these as exercises. Okay, with map filter, take these multiple exercises where basically you can just simply do console log of multiple other things, right? So over here also, if you see, filter is also an hard order function because it is taking a function. Okay, see, hard order function is it can either take a function as a parameter, or it can return a function, or it can do both the things. It's not necessary that a function should do both the things and once and inherit a function. No, it can do either of them also. Return a function, take a function, or do both the things. So in this case, in case of map and filter, it takes a function but it returns an array. It takes a function but it returns an array. Okay. Cool. I hope these are clear. What we'll do is we'll just take a break of 10 minutes and then we'll come back in 10 minutes. Okay. Because there are more other things to do. So again, after 10 minutes, we'll just continue for another, let's say, 1 hour to 1.5 hours. Okay. Hello, I am back. So if you're able to see me, if you're able to hear me, just let me know in the chat. Sorry about that. Basically, I'm using my phone in order to see the chat. Just didn't realize that the audio is also on. So in every class, I always have breaks. Whenever there is a huge, whenever the class is for 3 hours or 2 hours, obviously can't speak uh, continuously for for such a long time. So just take breaks. Okay. Cool. Okay. So obviously there are multiple supporting articles for all of them as well. So you can also always read about, let's say if you want to read about maps, you can just write map and then let's say you write geeks for geeks. So you will have uh, let's say map JavaScript. Obviously there is map in other languages also. So map JavaScript and geeks for geeks. So if you say map over here, this is the array map method. Okay. And obviously there are multiple YouTube videos on map on geeks for geeks itself. Okay. Or again you can also go and watch my videos as well. You can just take my JavaScript course and have a look at my JavaScript course as well. Okay. So cool. Okay, so you can read these articles as well of how they are using map and what they are actually doing with map and all of those things. Okay, so you see, if you see an example over here, whatever is the number in the array, basically they're just doing a multiple of that number, multiplying the number by 2, and finding the square root over here of the numbers, and then doing some of the other things right with the numbers. So um, converting the string into number by using parseInt method. So just have a look at all of these things. So you have a basic understanding of how basically things are actually working under the hood. Okay. Okay, cool. Okay. So let's just move ahead, right, with another higher order function, which is called as reduce. So these are very important. These map, filter, reduce, basically these come into conjunction. Okay. So map and filter is used to return an array. Okay. So just now we saw, okay, map and filter both will return an array. Map is just like a for loop is used to iterate over the array, okay. And then we did a couple of things with map as well, right? Returning with the first element. Again, you can also with numbers you can do multiple. Okay, so I'll let's say if I want to do, let's say, one more example of map. So I can just write, let's say, const numbers is an array called as numbers. Let's say there is 1 comma 2 comma, or let's say it starts with 2 itself, 2 comma 3 comma 4 comma 5 comma 6. Okay, and then let's say I just want to find the square of these numbers. So what I can do is I can just say const let's say result equals to, or let's say I just want to multiply the numbers by 2. What example we saw? So numbers dot map, and then let's say it takes a callback function. Okay, function. Okay, let's say it takes a function back. Okay, it's a very bad variable name. Okay, or let's say it just takes a multiple of 2. Okay, this is the name of the function, multiple of 2. Okay, so I can create a function multiple of 2. We'll take a number and just return what? Number multiplied by 2. Okay, so what will map do? Map will what it will do? It will just return a new array. Okay, so how does map work? Basically, it will go through every element. Okay, and it'll take all the elements and pass it to this callback function. Filter also does the same thing. It will take every element, pass it to the callback function. So number becomes 2, and it will return number multiplied by 2. Now, where is all of them stored? Because map returns an array. So it will create an array of it will create an array of the result. Okay, so first number multiplied by 2, so 2 multiplied by 2 is 4. The number is 3, so 2 3s are 6. Number is 4, so 2 4s are 8. Number is 5, 2 5s are 10. It will create an array, and then if I do a console.log of the result, and then if I see it over here, so if it gives me 4 6 8 and then 10. Okay, So this is how basically how it actually works. Okay. So let's move ahead. So it gives me 4, 6, 8, and then 4, 6, 8, 10, and then 12. Okay. So everything is just a multiple of 2. Okay. So this is how it actually works. Okay. Now let's take an example of reduce. Let me comment all of them. So map is done, filter is done. What is remaining is reduce. Okay. So now the reduce is a little different from map and filter. Reduce is also an higher order function. It also takes a function. Okay. Like map and filter. Reduce is also an higher order function. It takes a function. Okay. So higher order function, it takes a function, but it returns a single value. And like map and filter does not return an array, but it returns a single value. So let's say I have an array of numbers, and then I just want to find the sum of all of the numbers. So I'm going to find the sum of all the numbers. What I can do is, okay, so I can just say total equals to numbers dot reduce. Now, if you read about this, if you see reduce, it takes a callback function. And what does the callback function has? The callback function has the previous value, which is a number. It has a current value, which is again a number. It has a current index, and it can take array also. Okay, array, which is the current array that you're working on. So if you see, it says a function that accepts up to 4 arguments. And it calls a callback function one time for each element in the array. Okay. So it takes a callback function. Okay, so I'll just write an arrow function over here, and then it takes 2 values. Okay, one is the previous value and one is the current value. So we will go by ACC and current. So ACC basically is accumulator. Accumulator is basically a placeholder which will accumulate all the values. Okay, it will accumulate the result. It will keep the result, and then that value is returned. Okay, ACC is nothing but accumulator. Accumulator is a value where the result is accumulated. Okay, the way it was map, filter, and reduce, so it basically has an array. Array is returned. So in the same way with reduce, whatever is the value in the accumulator, that will be returned. Okay, so what we will do is, so this basically it takes a callback function. Okay, so it takes 2 parameters, accumulator and then current, right? A callback function, and it also takes something called as an initial value. So we can just write over here. It takes 2 things. Okay, it takes 2 things. It takes a callback function, and it takes an initial value also. So if you see over here, reduce takes a callback function over here. This is one complete what we say, one complete argument. It takes a callback function which has 4 values. It can pass 4 values in the callback function: a previous value, a current value, current index, and then a number. In the callback function, we can pass 4 values, and then it again takes another parameter also, which is an initial value. So initial value. Okay, so this is what a reduce function does. It takes an initial value and a callback function. So what I'll do is I'll define both of them over here. So I'll just write initial value equals to 2. Okay, or let's say initial value equals to 10. And then what I'm going to do is create a callback function. This callback function, okay, this callback function is to calculate the sum. So I'll just write calculate sum. Okay, so instead of callback, I'll just write calculate sum. This will take 2 parameters. Okay, it takes a previous value, okay, prev value, and it takes a current value. So the previous value, we will call it as accumulator because everything is accumulated over here. So what I'll do is I'll just do return ACC plus, instead of current value, I'll just write current over here. Okay, ACC plus current. And I'm just passing initial value. What I'm doing is I'm just returning ACC plus current. Okay, so let's see what is the result, and then we'll discuss about it. Total, save it. So if I go over here, so the result is 38. Now where is 38 coming from? Okay, let me just remove this initial value. So this initial value is an optional thing. Okay, this initial value is an optional thing. So if I have a sum of all the numbers, this should be what? 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 plus 3 is 6, then 4, 10, 15, 21, and then 28. So the result should be what? 28. So the result is 28. Okay. So how does this work? Okay. How is addition working? Because in order for addition, addition should work in two ways. Okay. Now let's understand this very carefully. Since there are two parameters, what will be the value of accumulator and current? So if I do not pass any initial value, the value of accumulator is the first value of the element. If I do not pass any initial value, right now I've declared an initial value, but I'm not passing it. So let me remove it. If I'm not passing any initial value, so the reduce method takes two things, a callback function and an initial value. Okay. The reduce method takes two things, a callback function and an initial value. So here there is a callback function. In the callback function, there is accumulator and current. So over here, if I'm not passing any initial value, the value of ACC, which is accumulator, is the first value of the array. And obviously the value of the current element will be the second value of the array. What happens is now see, when I do ACC plus current, so it will do 1 plus 2, and this value is stored in ACC. So ACC becomes 3. This value is stored in ACC becomes 3. Now current value will be the next element, which is 3. Okay. Current value is the next element, which is 3. So now this will become basically ACC, the value of ACC is 3, and the value of current element is also 3. So 3 plus 3, ACC will become 6. Now current will become 4. Okay. So ACC is 6 and the current element is 4. So the value would be 10 and stored back into ACC. Okay, accumulator. Now ACC is 10, the current value is 5. So the total becomes 15. It's stored back into ACC. Okay, again there is an addition. Now ACC is 15, the current value is 6. So the addition becomes 21. Okay, now since ACC is now stored back into ACC is 21, current value is 7. So this becomes 28. So this is how it actually works. Okay. So let me explain this again. So when I'm calling a callback function for reduce takes 4 parameters, but these two are required parameters, ACC and current. The current index and the array is an optional thing. Okay, but this are the two required parameters. So ACC, if there is no initial value passed, we were also writing initial value. The reduce method takes two things, a callback function and initial value. If I'm not passing any initial value, the first value of the element becomes an initial value. This is ACC. If I'm not passing any initial value, the first value of the array will become ACC and the second value will become the value of current element. Okay. Then both of them are added. 1 plus 2 is 3 is added. So the 3 which is added has to be stored somewhere, right? Because I have to add the result with the next value of the element. So where is 3 stored? It is stored into ACC only. So ACC is 3. Now current value will be the next consecutive value, which is 3. Okay. Current value is the next consecutive value, which is 3. So ACC was already 3. Why ACC was 3? Because it was addition of the first two numbers and the result is stored into ACC. Then current is 3, so 3 plus 3 is 6. That result is stored back into ACC. That result is stored back into ACC. So ACC becomes 6, right? Then the current value will become 4. 6 plus 4 is 10. Okay. Again, the result 10 is stored back into ACC. The next value is 5. So 10 plus 5 becomes 15. Okay. So 15 is stored back into ACC. Now the current value becomes 6. 15 plus 6 is 21. That is stored back into ACC. So ACC is 21. So the last element becomes 7. Okay. So 21 plus 7 becomes 28. This is how it actually works. Now let me say if I pass an initial value. Okay. If I pass an initial value, I'll just write let initial value is equal to 10. And then I pass the initial value over here. So if I save it, now the result becomes 38. So I'm adding an additional 10 into it. Now why is this happening? Because whenever I pass an initial value, the value of ACC will be the initial value. Okay. So whenever I pass an initial value, the value of ACC will automatically become the initial value. So ACC now is 10, and the current value will be the first element of the array. Now the dynamic changes. The current value will be the first element in the array. So 10 plus 1 becomes 11. Stored back into ACC. So ACC is now is 11. Okay, so it was 10 plus 1. ACC is 10, which is 11, which is stored back into ACC. So ACC becomes 11. Now ACC is 11. Current value becomes 2. Current value becomes what? 2. So it becomes 13. Now ACC is 13 because stored back into ACC. Current value is 3. It becomes 16, right? Now ACC becomes 16. Whatever is the addition stored back into ACC, ACC becomes 16. Current value is 4. This becomes 20, right? Stored back into ACC. So ACC is 20. Current value is 5. This becomes 25. Stored back into ACC. ACC is 25. Current value is 6. This becomes 31. Stored back into ACC. ACC is 31. Current value is 7. So this becomes 38. So this is how it works. Okay. So the only difference is that if there's no initial value, the value of accumulator is the first element of the array, and the current element would be the next element of the array. But if there is an initial value, the value of accumulator now becomes the initial value, and the current element would be the first element of the array. This is the only difference that is there with adding an initial value, not adding an initial value. Okay, depends on you whether you want to add an initial value or don't want to add an initial value. Okay, so now let's take an example of the same thing where I'm doing multiplication. So let's say const multiple equals to numbers dot reduce. Now I'm not going to write the regular function. I'm going to use an arrow function. So a fat arrow function. Okay, why I'm putting and then an initial value also. Since there is a multiplication, there should be an initial value. Okay, so I'll take ACC and then current. Okay, so and why this parenthesis? Because there are two parameters. So I'll just write ACC into current. Okay, and I'll just take initial value to be 1. Okay, instead of 10, I'll just take initial value to be 1. And let me just comment this part. Console log of total, and let me just do a console.log of multiple. Console.log of what? Multiple. So if I save it, and then if you go back over here and have a look at it, 5040. Ayyo, don't even know. Okay, so let me just do it till the time where I know. Okay, so I'm just doing a multiplication of them. Initial value is 1. So this is 24. So this is right because I know the multiplication till here, right? So 1 multiplied by 1 is 1, and 1 multiplied by 2 is 2, 2 multiplied by 3 is 6, 6 multiplied by 4 is 24. Okay. What happens if I don't pass an initial value? Will this still work? If you go and check it, obviously it's still going to work. Okay, it still works. Okay, just wanted to pass an initial value. If I do not even pass an initial value, obviously it's still going to work. Okay, so this is how this works. Now there are multiple things that can be done in this also. So for example, if you only want to, okay, so for example, let me take an example with reduce also. Okay, so for example, if I want to return an array, so can I do that? So for example, let's say I have these array of names. I have this array of names. Okay, and let's say what I want to do is the question would be, I want you to use reduce and only return an array which has let's say more than 5 characters. Okay, and this should be done by reduce. Obviously this can be done by filter, but can this done be by reduce also? Can reduce return an array? So as I told you, reduce returns a single value. Single value can be anything. Single value does not only mean number and string. Single value can be an array and an object also. So let's say const result equals to, okay, students.reduce, okay, students.reduce, and then we can take ACC and then current. Okay, this is a callback function, and then we can have an initial value. Now the initial value should be an array. If I want to return an array, okay, if you want to return an array, obviously my initial value should be an array because ACC should become an array. See, as I told you, ACC is the one thing that will be returned. The only thing that is going to be returned is nothing but what? ACC. Okay, the only thing that is going to be returned is nothing but what? ACC. So since I want to return an array, I will just use ACC, okay, as an array. So what I'm going to do is over here is I just want to return the elements which have more than 6 characters, okay, more than 5 characters. So let's say if I just do it over here, if current dot length, okay, if current dot length is let's say greater than 5, okay, is greater than 5, then what you do is then you return the current element, or else you give me the entire accumulator. Okay, so what I'm doing is if current is greater than 5, then you return the current element, okay, or else you give me the entire accumulated value itself if it is not so, and the entire accumulated value is nothing but an array. So if I do a console.log of result, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get is, so okay, so over here what I'm getting is I'm getting a single value which is Prakash. Okay, so what is happening over here, it's not giving me the entire array, but what it is giving me the single value. Okay, why? Because I wanted to return an array, right? So what I have to do is I have to just, instead of ACC, I will just use it as an array, and then I have to spread this array also. So I'll spread this array. Okay, so now if I go and check it over here, let me just refresh this part. Okay, did I save it? Okay, so what is this thing? So if current, okay, yeah, okay, so I can just return the current element. Obviously again I have to put it in an array, right? And what I'll do is I'll just do .ACC. I'm spreading the actual array, right? Spreading the actual array. There's no need to do it in this way over here. Yeah, I'm spreading the actual array and I'm just adding the current value. Okay, what is happening over here is if I just write current, so I'm just returning the current element, whichever is the element. But what I want to do is I want to return an array. I want to add it into an array. So I'll spread the accumulator array and I'll just return the current value. Okay, so this is spreading the array. Okay, this is what we are just spreading the array, and I'm just adding the current value into the array. Okay, so if you see over here, now I'm getting Ashish, Sakshi, Avneet, Adarsh, and Prakash. I'm not getting Riya and Sadaf because those values were greater than 5. Those values are less than 5, right? The number of elements are less than 5, right? So in this way, reduce also can return an array. Okay, so what did I do? When I make the initial value as an array, when I make the initial value as an array, that means my accumulator is nothing but an array. Okay, when I make the initial value as an array, that means my accumulator is nothing but what? It's an array. Okay, if you have any questions, you can just put it in the chat. Okay, I'll be happy basically to answer all your questions. Okay, just let me know if you have any questions and just put your in the chat. Okay, so this is what map filter reduces. In the same way, we can also return objects as well. Okay, we can also return objects as well. We will also have a look at what objects are, and we'll see how basically objects actually work under the hood also. Okay, any questions? Anyone has any questions, any doubt? No one here don't have any questions? Okay, so let's move ahead. Okay, and let's see more about objects also. Okay, now there are multiple methods with array. Okay, there are methods. So this was just map filter reduce, but there are methods like find, There are methods like sum also, right? So I'll encourage you to do all of those methods. Okay, I'll encourage you to do all of those methods. Read about those methods. Okay, read about different methods of array. Okay, obviously I can't cover all of them. Okay, if you want to learn more about of them, so you can just go through my JavaScript course on Geeks for Geeks. Okay, just go to Geeks for Geeks and just in the courses section, just search for the JavaScript course. Okay, and you will just find my JavaScript course over there. So in the course, obviously I've covered most of the methods, not obviously not all the methods, but I think there are 10 to 11 methods that I've covered, which are important methods and which are used like map, filter, reduce, then find, then sum, then find index, and then other couple of methods, sort. Okay, all of the methods also. Okay, cool. So just go through it and just you can just find you'll be able to understand. Okay, cool. Let's move ahead. Okay, let's discuss about objects. Okay, so I'll just write const, let's say student details equals to, so I have an object. Okay, so let's say it has name, and then let's say Prakash, and then let's say the age, let's say 99, and then let's say let's say course taken or course enrolled. So let's say now the courses, so over here I'll just say right courses taken, and this can be an array also. So let's say there are multiple courses that I've taken. I've just taken JavaScript ka course, I've taken React ka course, let's say I've taken uh, Next.js ka course, and I've also taken, let's say, Node.js ka course, right? So there are multiple courses that I've taken. Okay, so this is one. This is a student details. Okay. Now, what I can do is I can just do if I do a console.log of student details. Okay, and then let's say we have a look at it. Okay, let's say I have a look at it. So let me just run here itself. Okay, let's run the code here itself. Okay, so if I run the code here itself, so if you see, I get nothing but an object. Okay, what is when I do console.log of students, I get what? I get an object. If you want to find the type of data type of the variable, you can simply write type of and then space, right? And then let me just clear this part. And again, if I run the code over here, so if you see the type of it is what? Object. Okay. If you just write type of and then you write the name of the variable, you'll get the type of data, whatever is the type of the data. So the type of data over here is nothing but an object. So I'm getting what? I'm getting it as an object. Okay. Okay. Cool. If I want to access single values, I can just write instead of student.details, I can write student.name, save it, and if I run the code, so I get Prakash. If you see over here, right? In the same way, if I do student's name.age, right, and then save it, and then if I run it, if you see over here, I get what? Prakash and the 99, right? If I do it in the same way, and then instead of age, if or again if I write course is taken and save it, and let me just clear this part, and if I run the code, so I get all of them. Okay, so over here I can get a value. Okay, now I can also add keys also. So let's say, for example, if I want to add more keys over here, I can add a key also. So for example, if I want to add a key, so I can just add student details dot, let's say, and then city is equal to, if I write Mumbai, right? And then if I do console.log of student details and save it, let me clear this part. Let me remove this part. Let me do a console.log twice. Okay, so before and after. Okay, before and after. So if I run the code, so if you see, the first log has only 3 keys: name, age, and courses taken. But the new log has name, age, courses taken, and city also. So with this, basically, I can add a new key to an existing object also. Okay, this what I can do is I can add a new key to the existing object also, right? So my object basically has multiple things, right? So my object now has multiple keys. Okay. 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 Cool. Okay. So now again, obviously, if I want to work only on this courses taken, so I can do that also. Now the other part is that any object can also take a method also. So let's say if I just write show message, this basically can be a method. Okay, this basically can be a method. We just log some value. So let's say console.log. Hello, welcome. Welcome G. So if I save this, right, and if I run the code, so if you see now, if you see the first one, show message, what is it? It's a function. Show message is what? It's nothing but it's a function. Over here also, show message is what? It's nothing but a function. So how do I execute it? Very simple, right? So in order to execute it, I can just write student details dot show message and then call it. So if I save it, we run the code. So if you see, it just gives me hello, welcome G. Okay, because it's a method, right? So this is the beauty of object. Object, okay. What I can do is in object, my value can be anything. It can be a number, it can be a string, it can be an array, it can be a function also, right? How this function is accessible? This function is accessible by this variable name show message. Another part is it can also be an object also, right? For example, let's say address. Okay, address, and then I can have an object. Let's say city is Mumbai, state is obviously Maharashtra, and then country is India. Okay, TTT. Okay, save it. So now, obviously, if I have a look at it, and then if I run the code, so okay, so I just have to do console.log of the student details. So console.log of student details. So if I save it, right? If I save it and then if I run the code, so if you see, I get the object over here as city, as Mumbai, state, and then Maharashtra also. Okay. Let's learn a very important thing over here called as creating a copy of an object. So let's say I wanted to create a copy of an object. Okay, I wanted to create a copy of an object, and what I want to do is I just want to say, or let's say instead of student details, let's say I just write Prakash details. Okay, and again I want to create another copy and just write const Ashish details, and what I want to do is I want to create a copy of this object. Okay, I want to create a copy of this object, and I'll just write equated to Prakash details. Okay, so if I do a console.log of Ashish details, okay, console.log of Ashish details, so I'll get the same thing, Prakash and this thing. Okay, now the good part is that I can also change this name also. Okay, so in Prakash details itself, so for example, let's say I'm not creating a copy. If I do Prakash details dot name is equal to, instead of Prakash, let's say if I make the name as Ashish and save it, right? And then if I do console.log of Prakash details and save it, and then if I run the code over here, so the name becomes Ashish. So I can also change the value of a key also, right? Here the name was what, Prakash, right? But what have I done? Simply by changing the key, right? Simply by accessing the key Prakash details.name, I'm able to change the value also. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to create a copy. Okay. I'm just going to remove it, right? Everything is same. What I'm doing is I'm just simply creating a copy. So if you see in the output over here, I have Prakash and all the things. Now what I want to do is, since this is assigned, so I just have to change some details. So I'll just do Ashish details dot name is equal to Ashish. Okay. So I'll save it. Right now the name is Prakash. Now when I run it, so what is the name? The name becomes Ashish. Okay. Great. Cool. Let me also do a console.log of Prakash also. Okay. So till now we can see, okay, we are able to create a copy of the object also, and then I was able to change the name also. So I'm getting Prakash ka details and I'm getting Ashish ka details also. In Prakash, okay. So earlier we saw in Prakash details I was getting Prakash and then all of the things, and then I created a copy of the same object because I just wanted to change the name. So I created a copy and I'm just changing the name now. Okay. Now when I run the code, so if you see over here, the first object is the name is Ashish. The second also the name is Ashish. Okay. What am I doing? I'm logging Ashish details. So Ashish details is nothing but a copy of this Prakash details. And in Ashish details, I've changed the name to Ashish, right? So when I do Ashish details, the name should be Ashish, right? Because I change the name. But when I do Prakash details, the name should be Prakash, right? The name should be Prakash only, and the remaining things should be same. But the name is also changing to Ashish. It is not changing to Prakash. Okay. So what is happening over here? Okay. So what is happening? That means the Prakash details has been completely updated. The Prakash details has been updated over here, right? Completely updated, because in both the ways, see Ashish details, the name is Ashish. In Prakash details also, the name shell is Ashish only. The name shell, if you see over here, it is Ashish only. Now why this is happening? Whenever we talk about objects, okay, objects are not referenced by value. Objects are referenced by memory. Okay, objects are referenced by what? It's not referenced by value. Okay, it's just referenced by memory. Okay, so when I create a copy over here, when I create a copy of an object over here, so this Ashish details is referring to the same location where Prakash details is created. Okay, so when I create this variable and it has an object, right? So basically JavaScript takes a memory unit in the entire memory block. So given an entire bigger memory block which has different memory units, so Prakash details will take a space in that memory block. Okay, so let's say the first grid only, row 1 and column 1. The first part is Prakash details. Now when I'm creating another variable Ashish details, so it should take another memory location, right? Should take another memory location. But what I'm doing, I'm writing Ashish details equals to Prakash details. So it will point to the same location. So that's why it says it is referred by their memory location. It will point to the same memory location. Ashish details also point to the same memory location. So if I change anything in Ashish details, since it is changing in the same memory location, right? So Prakash details will also in turn change, because the value of Prakash details and Ashish details are coming from the same memory location, from the same point. Okay, it is coming from the same house, right? It is coming from the same house. So just imagine, right? There was a sofa in a house. If that is changed, right, anyone who comes in the house will just find the new sofa. They won't be able to find the old sofa, right? So it's the same thing over here. It's the same thing over here. What is happening? I created an object called as Prakash details in one memory location, and I created a copy of the object expecting it to be created in another memory location. But since it is objects and objects are not referred by value, it is referred by their memory location. So Ashish details is pointing to the same place where Prakash details is created. So if I change anything in Ashish details, it will change in Prakash details. So that's why Prakash details and Ashish details both have the same value. Okay. So now how do I create a copy of this object? Okay. If I want to create a copy of the object, what I have to do is I have to spread this object. So someone was asking about explain spread again. So that's why I took this example. How do I spread an object? I'll create an object. I'll write dot 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 and I'll just do Prakash details. So this object would be spread. Okay. So this object would be spread. So now when I clear it, okay. So I'm just spreading. When I do triple dot, and then so this is applicable only for objects, arrays, strings. Okay. Not numbers and all the things. So if I run the code now, so first should be Ashish details. So see, Ashish details name is Ashish. Okay, age and all the things. And then when I take about this name, okay, the second one is Prakash details. Okay, cool. Okay, but now let's try to change the address also. So let's say for Ashish, I want to change its city. So I'll just write over here Ashish details dot address dot city. So address is an object. Okay, Ashish. So it will be Ashish details dot address, right? And inside address, it's an object. So if I want to get the value of that object, again I have to put a dot operator and then dot city is equal to, let's say Sirsa is from Sirsa. Okay, she is from Kalavali. So let's just write Kalavali. Sirsa. I don't know if the spelling is right or wrong. He will kill me when he knows that I'm writing this thing. Okay. So now what I'm expecting in Ashish details, the city should change to Palavali Sirsa. Okay. So now when I run this code, so see for Ashish, the city has changed to Kalavali Sirsa. Woo! It's good. But the disclaimer would be for Prakash. What is happening in Prakash? So if I see in Prakash, the city has changed to Prakash. See, the name has not changed. The name is still Prakash. But the name is still Prakash, but the city has changed to again Kalavali. Okay. So what we did a copy was is this called as a this is just the it's not a deep copy, it's a shallow copy. Okay. If this object was not there, it would have been a deep copy. If this object was not there, when you spread, it just creates a deep copy. Okay. If this object is not there, when you okay, let me comment this part also. So if this object is not there, okay, then it creates a deep copy. Okay, then it creates a deep copy. Okay, this is a shallow copy. You should also know the terms also. This is a shallow copy, where change in one object will cause the change in the other object also. This is a shallow copy. Now, when we do a spread, it becomes a deep copy, provided that the key has no object. But let's say there is this address also. So inside an object, there's another object. Okay. Inside Prakash details, there is another object called as address. Okay. Inside Prakash details, there is another object called as address. So now, when there is another object called as address. So now, when I do it in, so now this no longer is a deep copy. Again, it becomes a shallow copy, right? Why? Because the internal object value is also changing. Okay, the internal object value, internal is also changing. So how do I preserve that also? If there's an object inside an object, and if you want to preserve that also, so what I will do is you'll put a comma. You are spreading this entire object. You put a comma, and then you'll write. You want to create the address, and address also you'll spread it. So again, you'll write Prakash details dot address. Okay. So Ashish details says you're spreading the entire object, and then you know that there is an object. So if there is another object, you also spread that object also. So I just have to write address, and then again dot Prakash details dot address. Why? Because where is the address coming from? It's coming from Prakash ka details. Okay. So now this becomes a deep copy. So if I save it and run this code now, so if you see, the name has changed to Ashish and the city has changed to Kalavali Sirsa, and over here the name is Prakash and the city is still Mumbai. Okay. Is this clear, everyone? Is this clear? This is deep copy and shallow copy. Okay, so this is what spread actually is. Arun Rajput, I hope you understood this part. If you're there, okay. Cool. Now, since many members are there, okay. So if you want to have a look at my course, okay, you can have a look at my course on Geeks for Geeks. There's an entire course on JavaScript from the basic to the advanced part. Again, it covers multiple projects and there are multiple coding exercises. There are articles, there are assignments, right? Every topic has assignment, every topic has articles, every topic has explanation with code, and then there are multiple coding exercises, even machine round questions as well. So course is for everyone, basic to advanced, for someone who's a fresher, for someone who's experienced. So I think this course roughly is for someone who has experience from 0 to 2 years, because after 2 years, you obviously, if you have done dedicatedly JavaScript, then obviously then you know multiple things. Then you don't require the course. But yeah, if you're someone who want to brush up your skills and do all of those things, so then this course is definitely for you. So you should consider taking this course up. Okay, so just consider taking this course up and do this course. So it will basically help you a lot. Okay, so this was about objects, spreading the object, creating a shallow copy and a deep copy also. Okay, let's move ahead. Let's see some part of strings also, and then we can wind up the session. So let's say there is a string. Okay, str equals to, let's say Prakash. So I can also iterate over the string also. So I can just write for let I, the way I used to do it with array, I can do the same way for string. Less than string dot length, and then I plus plus. Okay, or instead of Prakash, let me just write user. It's good variable name, and then if I do a console.log of user square brackets I. Okay, user square brackets I. So if you see, it gives me all the characters, PRAKSH. Okay, got it. So and yeah, there are multiple methods of strings that basically can apply. You can basically check if a string basically has um, is alphanumeric, or the string is has only alphabets, the string has only numbers, right? So you can do all of these methods also, right? For example, if I do user dot, right? So if you see, I have so many methods, right? You just write user and then dot, you can see all the methods. Okay, what are the methods? Okay, so you can do a split also. So for example, let's say, okay, let's say for example it is Prakash space. So I'll just write my entire name, Prakash Narsingh Rao Sakari. Okay. So if I do a split on this, so if I do, let's say I do a console.log user.split. If I do a user.split, and then let's say if I split it by a space, okay. When I say split, I have to split, also say split it by space. So what is this going to give me? This is actually going to give me an array, right? So if I run the code, it gives me an array. Okay. So when I use a split method, I'll basically get an array. Okay. So on the array, and now again, if I want to convert this back into a string, I can use the join method also. I can just do a dot join, and let's say I will join them by comma, or let's say I join them by this OR gate. Okay, this does to piping. So if I run this code again, so if you see Prakash, piping Narsingh Rao, piping Sakari. So this is how it actually works under the code. Okay. There are multiple methods on the strings that can be applied and also used on the string. Okay. So for example, a very good question is to find whether a given string is a palindrome or not. Okay. To find whether a given string is a palindrome or not. So this can be done in a very, very simple way. So for example, if I want to find a given string is a palindrome or not. So for example, let's say madam. This is a palindrome string, right? Because you read it reverse and it is the same. So how do I do it? So let's say I just create a function, and then I'll just write check palindrome. Okay, check palindrome, and then this will take a string which is a text. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is, so what I would have to find the reverse, right? So how do I find the reverse? Okay, so in order to find the reverse, what I'm going to do is and let me just call this function check palindrome with, let's say, a text which is nothing but to be user. Okay, so user. So what I'm going to do is, let's say I'm just going to do console.log. I'll just do const. I'm just going to write arr equals to, I'll do a text dot, okay, split. Okay, I'll do a text dot split and I'll save it. Okay, and let me just do a console.log of this part now. Console.log of the arr. So if I run the code now, so if I split it, it gives me in this way, madam. Okay, so let me write Prakash for now. So even if it is, so if I run the code, so I get Prakash. Okay, I get Prakash. Now I can do the reverse also of this. So if I do reverse, because since this split is nothing but an array, okay, so I can just do const reversed array equals to arr dot reverse, because I know split gives me reverse. Okay, split basically gives me an array. Split gives me what? It gives me an array, right? So this becomes an array now. I know that when I do a split method on the string, it gives me an array. So this arr is an array. On an array, I can apply the reverse method, and instead of this arr now, I can just do the reverse arr. Okay, or let me just do another console log and let me just reverse array. So if I run it now, so if you see, okay. So if you see both of them, ARR and reverse ARR, both of them basically are what? It's the same thing, right? It's give me a reverse value only. So obviously there's no need for all of these things. So on the split method itself, I can just directly apply this reverse. Okay, on the split, I can directly apply this because if I was able to apply it on arr.reverse, I can just do this also, right? So now if I do a console.log of the arr, okay, arr, let me clear this. Okay. So if you see, I get this array, okay, the reverse array. Now this is reverse, so I can join this also. I can just do a dot join and join it with basically nothing. Okay, so if I just put uh, this it in this way, right, and then if I run the code, so if you see, it is h and then it is in this way. Okay, but if I do not write anything over here, the join method. So join method is to it is so all of these methods. So see, split is a method of string, reverse is a method on an array, join is also a method on an array. So I'm just this is called as method chaining, where I'm joining the different methods. Okay, split is a method on string, okay, which gives an array. So the reverse is a method on an array. Join is a method on an array which is used to convert elements of an array into a string. Okay. So now if I run it, so if I get it in this way, okay, got it. So what I can do is I can obviously do a check case over here. I can just write if arr is equal to text whatever I've written, okay, or over here I can just write reversed str, okay. If the reverse string is equal to the text that was passed, then I can just write console log. It's a palindrome, okay. And else what I can just say, if it is not, okay, else console.log, it's not a palindrome. Save it. Okay. If I do it in this way, Prakash obviously is not a palindrome because okay. So if I do madam, okay, so madam and this the reverse obviously would be same. So it says it's a palindrome. Okay. So this is about string. Okay. So yeah, today we covered a lot of things, right? We covered basically higher order functions. We covered some methods of array. We covered objects, right? There are methods on of objects also, right? And then there are what we say. There are methods of objects, and then there are more methods of arrays and more methods of strings also. So what I want you all to do is I want you all to explore these things. Okay, I just want you all to go and I just want you all to explore all of these things. Okay, just go and explore and just find it out. Okay, how things are actually working under the hood. Okay, what are the different methods that you can apply, right? So you can do all of these things, right? So I'll just give you a quick quick walkthrough. Okay, let me just share my screen again. I think I've stopped sharing the screen. Yeah, so let's say if you go to Geeks for Geeks, right? Geeks for Geeks /courses. Okay, geeksforgeeks.org/courses. Okay, and then over here, if you go to this part, development and testing. Okay, development testing. So you see courses related to development. Okay, so this is one course which I basically teach, this FSRNL. This is a live batch, okay, which basically is conducted every Saturday, Sundays. So you'll find me over here. Okay, I am the mentor. There are multiple mentors. Not only I'm the mentor. There are multiple mentors which who teach, and we've got a good amount of feedback from them. Okay, so if you see, I'm here. Okay, and then there are my courses. This is one course that I've created. This is a React JS course. This starts from beginners and goes to the advanced part of React, right? Obviously, this is me, which I've created over here. This is my course, right? So you can have, so you see it's 25 more than basically 30 hours of premium content and 25 hours of recorded content. And if you want to learn JavaScript, if you just started, so this is JavaScript. I think this is one of the best JavaScript course out there in the market. Not because I have made this, but because got feedbacks about it in this way. So if you see, there are these reviews also over here also. Okay, you can have a really, so this is more than 50 hours of content because it has everything. Okay, so if you see over here, more than 50 problems, right? Um, there are multiple coding questions, right? And if you see, you just go through the modules, you'll see there are so many modules over here, right? There are almost 19 modules, right? Whereas these assignments I've given, there are some projects that I cover, see advanced projects, and then machine coding interview problems. These are actually asked in exams, sorry, interviews, not exams, machine coding problems. There are these advanced coding drills, right? Then there are basic coding drills also, right? So you can go through this course and basically have a look at this course as well, right? So this will basically help you in uh, in your, obviously, if you're starting into development and if you want to learn JavaScript, I think this course is one stop, right? If you do this course, then honestly there's no need to do any other course because it has everything. It's not theoretical, right? It's completely practical, right? There are theory also. See, we also cover how does JS works behind the scenes also, how JavaScript code is executed, what goes into picture, right? And about functions also, what we learned today, higher order functions, map, filter, reduce, and all of those things also, right? So this is one complete course. So if you want to learn this course, you can learn JavaScript and then you can start with React. Or if you want to join this full stack batch, you can learn this full stack batch also. I think it starts. There's a batch every month, so you can do this also. Yeah. So if you have any questions, you can ask. I am here to answer your questions, right? If you want to ask anything, then you can ask anything. Okay. I will also put my LinkedIn in the chat. So if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, so you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well, right? So yeah, here's my LinkedIn. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, right? This is my GitHub. If you want to follow me on GitHub and see my work, all the projects that I've done on GitHub, you can also do this. You can also have a look at my GitHub account as well, where you can see the projects that I've done and everything that I've been working in and out around, right? So if you have any questions, just feel free to ask questions. If not, then we can basically end this stream. I hope you have had a good time, right? Where we've done multiple things, right? In JavaScript today. So we will keep on doing all these sessions. We'll keep on doing these sessions, and we'll have multiple sessions like this. So every Sunday, we are basically having this session starting from 10 a.m. Right? So again, I think the next Sunday we'll be doing some JavaScript projects, and then we can also deep. So there are multiple a lot of things. There will be async JavaScript also. We'll be learning asynchronous JavaScript, where we see how we can fetch a data from an API also. But in the next session, we'll do some projects on JavaScript, some basic projects. So that will also help you, to articulate multiple different things in JavaScript. Yeah. So yeah, that's it from today's session. I hope you had a good time. I hope you liked the session, right? Feel free to drop a message on LinkedIn. Feel free to follow me on GitHub as well, right? So I'll see you next Sunday. Bye bye.